You're listening to the Current Plays Podcast, Season 3, Episode 2, Tiletum. Now please welcome our hosts, Jordan and Thomas. And welcome back, wonderful listeners. This week, we actually got to play with our friend Kevin. So it was another one of Thomas's picks.
Yes.
But
Two in a row.
before I let you get into that, I actually quickly wanted to discuss stuff we've been playing because I've been playing a lot of Vantage, and man, do I love this game. Just very quickly, Stonemaier Games, designed by Jamie Stegmaier. It took him 8 years of building this world, and the world basically consists of cards.
Yeah.
And you're landing in a location on a uncharted planet, and it's going to tell you what location you landed in based on some random dice rolls. You're going to grab that card number out, put it in front of you, and uh I want to say Myst-esque, kind of. Like you've got a still picture in front of you and some actions you can do, and you're going to pick one of those actions, and you're going to do it, and you're going to see what happens. And you roll some dice that that represent some costs for you to do that action, and you might get rewarded. You might suffer those costs, but the rewards you can get are cards that go in your tableau that let you place those dice and avoid the costs, avoid the penalties associated with them. And it's I don't know how much of an actual game this game is, but the point is to just explore and
Yeah.
see. So like I mean, there is a goal, a mission that you're supposed to complete, and you complete that by, yeah, exploring the planet. But what I love is when it first came in, like I knew nothing about the game, don't know what anything did, and you just try stuff and see what happens. And you find out. And then from game to game to game, you know a little bit more, and you know a little bit more about the world, and you start to you just eventually I'm like, oh, we completed the mission, we finished, but I want to keep going. I want to see what's at the end of this tunnel. I want to see what's over those hills. I want to see,
Yeah. Yeah.
it's
Yeah. Yeah.
so much fun. We've got it set. You can barely see in the
Oh,
back.
yeah.
It's
Yeah.
still set up on the table because my wife and I completed a mission, but it was really late at night, and we want to keep going, so we just left it. And yeah, it's so much fun. So much fun.
Yeah. I gotta say, like, I'd love to get deeper into that one as well. I played it once with you, with our buddy Kevin as well.
Yeah.
So it was kind of like our each of us picks a game when the three of us can, and it just happened to be my turn this week, but last time was yours, right?
Yep.
And yeah, that it was. Yeah, it was a fantastic game. I'd like to talk more about it, but it's one of those ones that it's very like almost relaxing. Like
Yes.
like it's exciting to play, but it's not something that you're sitting there stressed, right? Now when we talk about, the game today, that's one that's like a really, brain burning puzzle kind of thing. Whereas, Vantage isn't that, but it's nice because you can sit back, you can have like, whatever drink you're drinking while you're playing, and then, enjoy the experience, enjoy the what just the world, being immersed in the world, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And enjoying, what your um co-players are doing as well, right? Following their stories. Oh, that's really cool what you found, and look what I found, and then look what you know what I mean? So yeah, yeah,
Absolutely.
fantastic. Excited to talk more about that one for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I don't want to get too much into it because we'll end up with another 3 hour episode like our previous seasons. But yeah, I took my eldest out for his birthday. So for our kids' birthdays, we have four, so we try and take them out individually with each parent, just to give them some kind of like alone time with each of us, since it's always so hectic. And so I always take my son out to a board game cafe. We kind of have been traveling around, the Guelph area and then Kitchener, Waterloo kind of thing, exploring new cafes. So yesterday we went to Games on Tap, which is in Waterloo. I gotta say the food was really good. Board game selection was great. We stayed for 5 hours and got five games to the table. It was nice. Yeah, so we
Wow.
played everything ranging from a dungeon roll, which is just like a light push your luck sort of dungeon delve game with dice, all the way to like Clank, which is a little, I wouldn't say heavier, but it's a deck builder. And we also played Marvel Legendary was another one that my son wanted to play.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah. So it was good. It was a good night, and we had a lot of fun, a lot of good food, and got home late. So he was always, he's 11 now, so it was exciting for him to get out and be out late,
Yeah.
basically. Oh yeah, I got to be out late with dad, right? We got home at like 10:30 or something, right? So it was now I
That's
say
awesome.
this stuff he's 11 and all this. I know Jordan, you know this, but for the watchers and for the listeners, just to give you a little more peek behind the curtains. But yeah, absolutely. That's it was a good night. Yeah, we had a lot of fun.
I always feel like we should do more board game cafes so that we're not buying every game we play.
You're
Um,
really smart.
but then it depends on the selection they have, right?
Yeah, yeah,
How was
and
the
you know what?
selection of this one?
It was good. It was a good selection.
They have
Whenever
newer stuff?
that's the thing. So when you go to cafes, if you want to play stuff that has been out for a while, but you haven't got to the table, like they had Stone Age, which is one that we still haven't played together, but is old as dirt kind of thing, right? Not that it's a bad game because I think it's actually a pretty solid game, but like you're not going to find they don't have Vantage, right?
Right.
So you know what I mean? So you're not going to find modern day stuff
I want to play
like today's
SETI
games.
again.
Yeah, I don't even think they had SETI, right?
Yeah.
They'll have like up to date sort of party games, but usually it's older selection just because games can be expensive. And we say that, we say it was a $75 night for the two of us, right? So between food and desserts and your table space and whatever, right? So
Right.
that's the price of a board game. So it's yeah, we got
Yeah.
five in though, so I don't know if you're playing five new board games, testing all those out, you know, it's and that'd be split between two people, so it would be as much, but still,
Still
it can
adds
add
up.
up.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah. So,
But
on to
yeah,
our
let's
current
do it.
play.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. This week we played Tiletum by Simone Luciani and Daniele Tassini and published
Yeah.
by Board and Dice.
Yes.
And
So, yeah. So right off the bat, some of my favorite designers and one of my favorite publishers too. Board and Dice are great. They do a lot of cool stuff. They do a lot of like RPG stuff as well, which I talked about last time we talked about this game. You can actually get a Tiletum, um, like D&D adventure kind of thing, right? Which
nice.
we don't play anymore, but it's kind of neat. And I got my
Okay.
whole I think this is the area here for Italian designers, right?
Nice.
So I'm pretty sure I'm pointing at Tileton right now, right? So it's a little hard to see on the small yeah webcam here, but yeah, absolutely. So we got this one to the table. Yeah, you mentioned who it was. So basically in Tiletum, you play as rich merchants traveling from the city of Tiletum, which is now modern day Tilt in Belgium. And you're basically moving around Renaissance Italy, going to various all the way from Belgium, Tilt in Belgium down to Venice in kind of the Italian peninsula, right? Or I guess more
Well,
the top part of Italy. You don't go much.
Well, I mean,
south,
there's
right?
London and Paris, and so I'd say
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
more
So you
Europe
do
than
it's more
Italy, but
Europe than just Italy. Yeah, for
yeah,
sure. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
there's
So, but it's a yeah, that's the idea of the game. I pulled up here sort of the let's look at Board Game Geek says action drafting, action points, contracts, dice rolling, end game bonuses. Yes and no. So I mean the idea behind this has got a really neat mechanism where you're rolling your dice, and those are going to be basically what you're drafting during your turn. So each turn is made up. You're going to pick three dice, one at a time between each players, right? And those die will be one of six actions. Each action does various things. And you will get a number of action points for the dice that you choose, right? So typically, what happens is whatever the face of the die is, that's how many resources of the color of that die you're going to get. So a pink die corresponds to food. So if it's a six, you're going to get six food. And then the opposite side of the die, which is a one, because opposites make seven on a die. If you didn't know that, nice little factoid. Uh, that's how many action points you'll get. So the opposite side of the die will be action points, and that's what you can spend on the action that you took the die from. So right off the bat, it's such a unique sort of mechanism on how that works, and
mhm.
I absolutely loved it. We talked about this one before, but essentially we were at Breakout Con one year, and I'm pretty sure this was on the Play to Win pot booth or whatever. Um, and we had walked by, somebody was playing in it, and I looked over and I was like, "Ooh, that looks very pretty. What is this game?" So I asked them, and they're like, "Oh, it's Tiletum." So I made sure that one of the next day we were there, we borrowed this game and we played it, and right away I was like, "Oh yeah, this is my my type of game, right?" And I hadn't even like these guys, of course, were on my radar before. I think the first one I picked up from them was actually Zolkin. But
Yeah,
this one really, set me down the path where now I'm almost, I picked up Grand Austria Hotel, which is another one by Simone. And like just a lot of like Golem here, Darwin's Journey. These are all like the whole Italian list is basically these two dudes. And then you throw in a few extra names, Flamini Brazzini, I think, something like that. Anyways, fantastic designers. So they get
yeah,
their own space on the board or on the shelf. But yeah,
yeah. I
absolutely,
have
yeah,
I have a bunch, right? Like
yeah,
Teotihuacan, immediately comes to mind. The
yeah.
unpronounceable T games, they're all great.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. The T games is a thing for sure, right? Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. But yeah, so that's how we were sort of introduced, and we had a bit of a funny story with that. I read the rule book while we were kind of like setting up. So I mean that I guess in that sense it was a little unfair in my benefit because I kind of knew what we were getting into. I was explaining it, but it had been a long day already at the con. We were both kind of a little tired because we were up late the night before playing games, obviously. And then we get into this big, heavy sort of game. So you were pretty tired. Could tell needed a coffee. I needed a coffee as well. But I picked up on it quickly and I was like, oh, cool. It's great for like comboing things.
yeah,
So oftentimes when you're taking a die from the action wheel, you also pick up some sort of bonus tile. And that tile might give you bonus actions of a different action, right? And doing those might result in more actions of a different, right? So I was doing all these like comboing where like I would do this, and then I get to do this, and then I get to do this. And
yeah.
comboing
Action
is one of my
chaining.
favorite things. Sorry, action chaining. Yeah, that's one of my favorite things in board games, and these guys are really good at doing it, and that's why often I'll pick up those games because they have that action chaining, right? And so I was doing that, and then you'd take a turn, and it would be
Yeah,
like, okay, I do this and that's it.
I
And then we
move.
we got like yeah yeah we got through like 2 rounds and we're going into like the third start of the third. I mean, we were like, man, I'm not feeling this. I don't know. And I was like,
Yeah.
that's okay. We'll end it here. That's fine. I know I'm gonna go out and buy it. And then I got home and did exactly that.
Yeah.
Ordered it, right? And then you gave it another try, which was awesome because I wasn't sure if you're going to.
No, and actually, the second time we played it, I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, yeah. And that kind of brings us, we've played it a number of times actually since that. At least one
Yeah.
other time. I've
Yeah.
played it a
Yeah.
bunch solo as well, which I love the solo. You're playing against a cardinal bot. Um, and it's really fun. And then I think this is the first time we played it 3 players,
Yes.
which was really it was a neat experience at 3 because it changed the experience from solo, which was slightly different than 2 player, which we played most of our games at, and then to play it at 3 was really neat, and I really enjoyed it. It came down to a lot of almost to a degree where if I took my turn now, I take my turn, I knew what I was doing, great. And then next player, I can stop looking at the board now because by the time it gets back to me, things
Yeah.
change.
Your plan's out the window.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, you took that die. It was going to
Yeah.
take great. Well, I had a backup for the. Oh, and you took that backup. Okay. Yeah,
Yep.
forget it. Yeah, yeah, yeah,
I
yeah.
think every single one of us at some point was like somebody picked up a die and somebody else went, "Girl!" You know, I won't say it here on the family
Yeah,
friendly podcast,
yeah,
but
yeah.
expletives were shouted across the table.
Yeah. And I think one of the things I find so fantastic about this too, because so basically part of how you set up the dice, so you'll have in a 3 player game, you get 1 die per player of each color, and that goes into the bag, but then you don't pull out all those dice at once, right? So you only pull out, in our case, we were only pulling out 11 for a 3 player game. So you're going to be missing some of those dice. So you won't have maybe not as much food this time around or not as much stone this time around, right? So this game makes you really think because going into a round, you might be like, okay, I really want to build cathedrals this round. So that means I got to be able to move my architect, which is an action, and place my architect stuff in those areas, and then I have to get stone so that I can spend stone to build those cathedrals, right? So 2 ways to hamper that. You plan for that round, and then all of a sudden, no dice end up in the action for architect actions. And if they do, no dice shows up for stone, and you're like, oh wow, okay,
Yep.
so or
Now what?
both happen, and there's nothing above, and you're like, I literally cannot do this at all, right?
In our
So
whole game, I like
I don't think we
the other
had one
part of
good.
this
Go, please, yeah,
the other part of this game, right, which
yeah,
is neat, is that there's 4 rounds or seasons or whatever you want to call it.
yeah.
And the first one's always in Tiletum. The other 3 are randomized. And the sorry, did I say the city? There's in those 4 seasons, you have to be in a specific city, and those cities are randomized except for the first one, which is Tiletum. So you either have to have a house built in that city, which means you had to have had a merchant there and then put a house down, typically, or you have to have your merchant there during that specific phase in that round. And our whole game, we never rolled any merchant actions. I think there was
Yeah.
like 1 die in the merchant action spot the entire game.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
And in a 3 player game, that means one person gets that die.
right.
And Kevin got that die this one turn and was able to take like it was like a 1 in there. So he got 6 action points and he was like, okay,
That was
I go to
me.
the that was you?
That was me. I was like, I'm not even sure I want the merchant action at this point, but I have to take it from you guys.
Right, right. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, oh, that's right. And you stopped them. But I think Kevin got his houses out, didn't he? He got his houses on the two.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
somehow, yeah, Kevin was able to get to like the second city and the third city in the round order and place houses there on like one turn. And then so
Nice.
that eliminated us being able to put our houses.
Yep.
So we had to have our merchants there. So we were trying like we had to like come up with such weird strategies to get our merchants there outside of like the
Yeah.
typical I take the merchant accent. No, 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 no. We have to like tangentially this causes me to get some sort of movement in the or I can, you know what I mean? So it was
Right.
like it was jumping around trying to like, okay, gotta figure out this outside of being able to take a die to do that. So
I
yeah,
think
yeah.
that's the point where Kevin was like, he goes, guys, I don't know if I have this right, but I can pay 2 gold to move this die to this action, right? And we were
Yeah.
just like,
That's
oh yeah, totally forgot about that.
That's, yeah, for those of you that are like, I hate dice, which I typically do, there is a mitigating thing where you can spend 2 gold, which is a resource in the game, to move a die one section over. So, like, when we weren't rolling merchants, the first round we're like, oh, and Kevin was like, oh, yeah, okay, I'm just going to spend my 2 gold to move the die. Then we're like, oh, yeah, that rule exists,
It's
right?
printed
And then
right there on the board, right
he,
by the
yeah,
action wheel.
yeah, yeah. So then he did that, and we were like, "Oh, wow, great, cool, 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 yeah." And then yeah, and then
Good
that just
move. Good
meant
move.
we had to literally like have our merchant in that location.
Yep.
And that's kind of this is one of the neat things I wanted to touch on too. Because I don't know many games that do this. So you have two player pieces that move around the board, but that do separate action, right? You have an architect and you have a merchant. So the merchant can build your houses and your architect can build your basically pillars that allow you to then build cathedrals in the cities where you have pillars, right? Similar to the houses where if you have houses in the areas where there's going to be a fair, which is the point scoring for that season, then you know that's the benefit of having a house there. Um, but I don't know of many games, I suppose, that give you these almost these two player characters that you can like, okay, I'm going to take actions to move this one around, and then I'm going to go in a totally opposite area of Europe here and move this one around,
Yeah.
right? And they do a lot of the same things as well because you can pick up chits on the board that are around bonus tiles that are around the board. And you can move and do stuff that's similar between the two, but then they're specific on what they build, right? So that's an interesting thing I like about this game too, is that you have those two player pieces that when it came to the end of the game, I was like, okay, there was one point, my second last turn, where there was a die in the architect action that gave a lot of action points. And I was kind of like, well, if it's not doing anything for the strategy that I was heading for, but it was I saw a combination where like I can get over here, pick up a bonus tile, which gave me like 4 extra gold, which could be used as wild resources or to move dice around, like we mentioned. And then get to a location, throw on another pillar, and build that cathedral, right? It used up like all my resources. But it was like like a 15 to 20 point swing, which was a huge swing in the game, right?
I
So I
think
was
that's
like,
when you took the lead from me, like
yeah,
finally,
yeah,
right?
that's exactly, yeah. And then it was sort of at that stage where like if I do this, that was really the key moment in this game for me, where if I do this, I'm likely not going to be able to get my merchant to that fair spot and I'll lose out on 10 points, right? But I was like, I'm gonna get like 20 points and only lose out on the 10, so then I can figure something out if that die gets taken to get a few more points and still, you know. And then the last turn it came down, it came to your turn, and I was right after you, and you took the die I wanted. And I was like, okay. But and that was the one time I was like, I'm not going to make a big deal of this. I'm just going to shut my mouth and I'm just going to go and try and solve, okay, what points can I salvage this turn? So I'm looking at the other
Yeah.
dice and thinking what actions, and then you're kind of like planning it out, and you're like, I'm taking this die, but like I haven't planned out my turn fully yet. And I was like, yeah, yeah, cool, fine, figure it out. And then you went down this path, and we were kind of like helping, like point out, okay, well, this will give you this points and this or whatever, right? And then you're like, I'm not sure I want this die. And I'm like, man, yeah, put it back. Don't worry about it. Yeah, it's fine.
It's
Like you haven't
easily
taken. We're
reversible.
just, yeah, yeah. I know what you did. You know what you did. We'll revert. It's fine, right? And so you're like, yeah, I think I'll get more points if I take this other die,
Yeah.
and then I do this, right? And you did end up getting more points with it, but yeah, you put the die back, and I was like, yes, because I knew that was going to be like essentially, I think it ended up getting me like 13 points by the way it maneuvered at the end. But
Right.
yeah, basically came down to I was able to get my merchant then to that location because of some of the little, finagling ways you can move merchants without actually having to take the merchant
Yeah.
dice. But
I
yeah, and it
would
meant all the difference for me. But I don't like it. It was one of those scenarios that like even if you hadn't taked it, I think it probably would have been a tighter game, but it could have ended up being, similar because you would have got a few less points on your turn.
yeah.
I would have lost, the 10, but then if I made any points on my turn, that you know what I mean? So it was kind of like
Yeah.
those,
You would have got fewer points, but I also would
yeah,
have got fewer points. So
yeah,
I
yeah.
was that the same turn where I'm like, I have this huge plan. I'm gonna do this, 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 and you're like, no, that tile doesn't work that way. And I was like, well, I just did all that planning and useless, useless.
Yes. Absolutely. Because you're like, oh, it was this big, like, all these sounds are coming along. Oh, oh, and you're
Yeah,
like, jostling, and you're starting to do, and then you do like the second point of this thing, and it was like,
yeah.
ooh, you can't actually do that. That's not
And
what that means, right?
and the
Like,
best part is like Kevin's like, we just had a conversation about this on my turn, and I was like, oh, I was in the washroom for your turn.
yeah, that I felt like that happened so many times that night too. It was like someone would just leave the room to go grab like a drink, and then some rule discussion would happen, and they'd get back, the other person would get back and then do the exact same thing, like, "Oh, you can't do that." What? I'm like, yeah,
Well,
we just talked. Oh, but you left the room. That's right, right? So yeah,
yeah,
that
Kevin,
happened to
you
you, and it
can't
happened to
have two of the
Kevin.
same dudes. No, you can't do
Yeah,
that.
yeah,
What?
yeah, yeah.
Oh, it was
So.
cathedrals he did for. He tried to build the same cathedral twice.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Now, mind you, this game it's got a lot of rules, right? So it's very easy, especially on the first time playing, to forget something.
Yeah,
One of the minor rules like that. So it's not a big deal. Like one of the things that Kevin did that we all missed was he also played a character in you have your player board with different houses, and each house has to be unique to the characters. You can only have those characters, the unique characters, in one house at a time, right? You can't have multiple characters in different or the same character in different houses. Very confusing what I just said, but just go with it, right? So he had did that on the last turn, and then we noticed it at some point, and we're like, ah, it's fine, whatever, man.
yeah,
That's too hard now. We went a few turns after you, and it was
yeah,
like, yeah, who knows? Yeah, we don't want to backtrack that far, right? But oh man, yeah, I just this one is such a I I enjoy it every time I play it, and every time, and I've been thinking, I was thinking about getting this one out more recently too, but then I was like, okay, we just talked about Lost Ruins and how we were gonna play the campaign a bit more too, and then I'm thinking about Tiletum and going back on saying how I was gonna stick with the campaign, so so it was nice that this opportunity came out, and I was like, oh yeah, okay. Let's try and bring this one out. It was between basically this one and Darwin's Journey
yeah.
for last night, but it was. That was I'll tell you though. So we got together on Tuesday. And so Tuesday we're in the middle of a house addition. And so I was laying like roofing, I don't know, sealant
Roof
things,
felt,
felt,
I
yeah.
think. Yeah.
And it was brutal, exhausting work in 40 degrees. And that's Celsius for the American listeners. And I don't know the conversion, but
Hot.
calculate it if you want. It's hot. It was hot. It was my shirt was light gray, and by the end of the day, it was dark gray. So it was a hot day. So I was like completely like bushed physically, but my mind was good. And so like I wanted to play this heavy game, so we played this. And then by the end of the night, it was like my brain was just mush, right? And I wake up the next day, Wednesday, and I could not function like at all. I was hurting, and then my brain was slow. One of my eyes wasn't opening fully because I was like, I can't even control. I don't have the bandwidth to control my eyelids. And it was yeah, my father-in-law is taking he's our project manager for the for our edition. And like I came out in the morning and he was like, "Oh, like good morning." And I was like, Is it? What is that?" So be aware that this game it's definitely a brain burny one for
Yeah.
sure. But so good, and I feel great every time playing it.
I mean, not
And
to mention the fact that we left Kevin's at like 1 in the morning.
exactly, yeah. So it was
Yeah.
also a very long day. Uh,
Yep.
and then we were talking on the car ride back about some conventions and stuff too. And so I was like, I got to send you this link. So then I was up later trying to remember what the name of this convention was, and then sending you the link to that. And then I was wired because like I was I always get excited when we play games, so I'm like, oh yeah,
Yeah.
so it's hard to go to sleep right away. And
I
this one
find
for
that
sure.
too.
And then pulling out kind of the win at the end of it was another like high feeling as well, right? Oh, that it just yeah, I just it was like a 2 a.m. sort of night, right? So yeah, difficult the next day for sure. But yeah,
That was
thankfully,
really cool, actually. Like at the beginning of the game, I said to Kevin, I'm like, we're not going to win this against Thomas. Like, this is his game. He knows it well. He plays it really well.
yeah,
And
yeah, yeah.
then you two kind of jumped out ahead, and I kind of went for end of the round points.
Yes.
And so the scoring the king track was the first scoring condition, and the king track already gives you or takes away points depending on where
Yep.
you are on the king track. So I was like, nobody likes the king track. I'm gonna go after that, try and get as far up it as I can, and then not worry about it for the rest of the game. And so I'll slowly go down, but then I'm not losing points, right?
Yeah.
Well, it worked out quite well because I scored big points on the objective and also on the king track. You guys lost on both of those. So then it was like this huge shift where you guys went way back and I went way ahead. And I stayed ahead for most of the game. And I was daring to hope at the end for a
It was
win.
close. Yeah, yeah. And that was it. And I typically don't do that. I typically try and stay whatever the end game or end round bonuses are. I try and attack those. But just that king track just feels so bad doing that. But you played it so great too that and I think a part of the reason it didn't end up working as much as it could have too is that we hit some big so the way the king track works is you'll at the start of every turn round, so those basically you get each person gets 3 turns, so there's 3 partial rounds in one round anyways at the start of it, you'll flip over a tile and you'll move that many spots back on the king track, right? Well,
Yeah.
and there's three of those tiles in one round, right? And I think that first round was like a -2, a -1, and a -2.
Yep.
So
Oh,
you like
so
we
mad.
all moved back 5 spots. So you were in like had they all been zero, with which they can't, but had they all been zeros, like you would have been like 9 points there, and we would have had nothing, right? So the way it worked out, yeah, you only ended up getting like 3 points, I think, or 5 points, something like
Yeah, as
that.
far as though. Yeah.
Five, yeah. And then we ended up getting like -7, which was a huge. You're right. You skyrocketed ahead, and I think I was in last by the end of that first round.
Yeah.
But the flip side is that we got to work on our engine a bit more and
Set
plan
up for
for
the
the
next
next
rounds.
rounds.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
think, and because of those backwards movement on the king track, it ended up not being as detrimental to us as it could have been had you got a little luckier on those flips, right? But
Right.
yeah,
Yeah.
no, it was still
Because
great.
the
Like
further you are on the king track, the point increase isn't straight, right?
yeah,
It's like you get more points the higher up you go.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So I mean, yeah, it could have gone anyway, but I think yeah. Final thoughts for this one. I again, I love these designers. They do fantastic work. This one is very different than anything I've played, and it's kind of like a key thing that these two designers do. Their games often are very unique, and I love them for that. And this one is just yeah, it's top of my list for sure. One of my favorites.